Hello, everybody. How the hell are you? It's Doc Kane coming at you from Kobe, Japan on a lovely, what is it? What is it? June 11th, 2021. It's nice today. Tomorrow is going to be even nicer, and Sunday it's going to rain because it's coming up on rainy season here in Japan, and that's what happens. So we got to make sure we do the most that we can with our weekends. And that's a little bit about what I wanted to talk about. But before I get to that, let me tell you what this place is. This place, if you're first here for today, is Marketers Who Can't Market. And it's the place you come to if you're a new marketer, an old marketer. You thought you knew what you're doing, you're not so sure anymore. That's what we talk about here. Tips, tricks, stuck. You're stuck, I'm stuck, we're all stuck. How do we get out of it? We do the things like what I'm going to talk about today, which is something I often remember and then forget about as soon as I start to remember it, which is taking breaks, which is really, really, really important. And I would like to frame it around the idea of making play dates for yourself. And this is certainly not my idea. I got the idea. Everybody knows they need to take breaks, right? But I love the way it's framed in the book called The Artist's Way. Most of us, marketers at least, would probably consider ourselves to be fairly creative. Even the scientifically minded among us have a really huge curiosity streak in us, right? And if you're a business owner, you're of the same suit, right? So we're creative and curious by nature, and that sort of character trait needs to be nurtured, right? And often we get too bound up in business, and we're always reading about business and thinking about business and not sleeping over business. I certainly am, and if you listen to my weekly reading roundups, I've got so many business books in there that I'm constantly reading, and it's a bit crazy, right? But yeah, that's important too, right? We're always got to be learning, always got to be kind of what's new out there. It's a very constantly changing market, just like it is in tech. And when you blend tech into marketing, well, man, there's really not a whole lot of time to take a break. But you got to do it, right? If you're an athlete, you know how important it is. If you work and train, as a triathlon official, a lot of nobody knows about this actually. I don't think I've mentioned that I am a triathlon official. In the U.S., I was a U.S. triathlon official for a number of years, and then I kind of graduated, if you will, or started to participate in international level competitions, and I'm one of a very few number of international triathlon officials in the United States. And it's a cool little group of people to be involved in. I'm not a triathlete myself. As a matter of fact, when I started, I was not doing any kind of exercise, which is why I decided in part to join this group and be around people who are taking care of themselves. And I've since become a runner, as you know, and I've always been a cyclist, but I'm not a huge fan of swimming, especially in the ocean, which is what triathletes tend to do at big-ass lakes with waves and wetsuits, and it's cold. Not fun, right? But those folks have to take breaks, right? If you're training constantly, you're going to get injured. And when you get injured, then you can't train at all, right? It just totally sets you back. It's the perfect analogy for realizing how important it is to take breaks in business. If you just go, 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 you're eventually going to break, and you need to take a real break so that doesn't happen, right? So I think the author of The Artist's Way is Julia Cameron, and it's a great book. I've read it. It was recommended to me by a teacher of mine. I took comedy writing lessons at Second City in Chicago, and I took improv at Chicago, as also a Second City, for a couple of years. I was in and out of that school for I think maybe 2 or 3 years, taking classes part time. It was wonderful, and my comedy writing instructor was Scott Dickers, the founder of The Onion. Maybe you've heard of The Onion. He's fucking hysterical and super brilliant, and learned so many wonderful things in hanging out with him in his classes. And one of the things I learned was that this book by, I believe, again, Julia Cameron, called The Artist's Way, is a great book, and you should read it. And he recommended it, and I read it, and it's wonderful. And the reason why it's most often recommended is because she talks about this idea of creating this thing called morning pages. And if you just look at it on the surface, morning pages is kind of like a diary, basically, right? But the way she frames it is, in other words, you wake up every morning and you start writing. And most people would call that a diary, but she talks about it differently. Her idea is not really thinking about what it is you're going to put down on the paper, which is more like what a diary would be like. You know, this is my life. This is what I did yesterday. She doesn't suggest that. She suggests opening up a book, a notebook, a notepad, even a piece of paper, whatever. But doing it every day, you open up this blank sheet and you just start writing. You don't think about what it is you're writing. You just get out what's on your head. And many times you don't even know what's in your head or what's on at the top of your head, or however the fuck you say that. Just write, right? And by doing this, it's somewhat cathartic in a way, and it helps to remove that garbage from your brain so that you can get on with the day, so it doesn't weigh you down. It sounds ridiculous, but it totally works. It totally works. And the idea is to just go, right? So you might even just be writing gobbledygook, nothing really. And I think she suggests you do it for about 5 minutes. And we did it in class. So Scott recommended it. We did it. And, many times you're not going to really write anything of any true value necessarily. But what does happen sometimes is you start to see patterns in what you're writing. Like, oh, I wish I wasn't so fat. Or, oh, this is internal dialogue that you have, right? Oh, I wish I would finish that story I wrote. And, oh, I wish I would talk to that guy. Or I wish I would talk to that girl. Or I wish I would call my mom. And when you see that sort of stuff over and over again, it's a very visual reminder, like, what the hell are you waiting for? Like, why don't you do it, right? So that's what most people talk about when they talk about this book of hers. And it's a wonderful practice, so I highly recommend it if you have never done it before. But the other thing that she talks about is the idea of this kind of artist play date. I don't think she calls it play date, but that's how I remember it. The idea is once a week, you do something for yourself. You reward yourself in a way that stimulates your creativity, right? So women are pretty good at this. Actually, they'll maybe go to the spa, or they'll take a nice long bath, or they'll do their nails, or spend extra time on their hair. This idea of taking care of themselves is very important to them. Men are generally not good at this, and if you're too focused on business, you're probably not good at it as well. I wrote this lovely piece, actually, about how my wife tends to pay special attention to these sort of personal needs, and I will link to it below. It's kind of a cool story. So I like this idea that is in the book, and basically, like I said, you set aside some time. Do something that stimulates your creativity. And I was reminded of this today because I was sitting in the dentist's office this evening waiting for my wife, who was in there for a quick visit, and my phone died. My phone is pretty much back in action now. I have Line again. I'm like a kid. I'm so happy. And this poor girl that I've told you about before, if you've listened to this podcast for a while, who thought I probably was dead because I was going to have a lesson with her in like 2 minutes from the. I was going to have a lesson in 2 minutes, and my phone fell in the toilet, and it died. And I hadn't been able to get in touch with her until today. So I messaged her, and she's like, "Oh my God, I was so worried about you. I'm glad to hear you're okay." So I had my phone with me today, and while I was in the dental office waiting for my wife, the battery died. So I picked up a National Geographic magazine that was in the dentist office, as they tend to be in every dentist office around the world, right? And it was all in Japanese, and so I couldn't read shit, but I was looking at all the beautiful pictures. And this particular issue had a large portion dedicated to like undersea photography, or sea photography, underwater photography. And oh my God, like there were things in there that you would think were like created in some sort of Disney or Pixar lab or some sort of Photoshop thing. Amazing creatures that you've never seen before, and it was like mind blowing to see it. And I was like, look, and even talking about it now, I'm like literally getting the chills. Unbelievable sights that these people who are diving must be just completely overwhelmed with the beauty of it all. And I just thought, like, wow, uh, this is so cool, and it was really triggering and stimulating my creative sense, right? And I wanted to like touch these things, and then with the colors were so vibrant, and I was imagining like the idea of being in the water, and then there were pictures of coral reefs and beautiful squid-like fish things, and man, it was just amazing. And it reminded me of this idea. And some years ago, when I was at Second City and I was told to check out this book by Scott, I started to do this somewhat regularly. And I would do things around Chicago that I'll recommend to you now as things that you can do in your own city, wherever you are. It doesn't matter how big or small your area is. These sorts of things you might find enjoyable. Like I said, they're little play dates for yourself, right? And if you're with if you have someone significant in your life, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, husband or wife, or something like that, you can take them with you, or on these sorts of adventures, or you can go out on your own. If your significant other does some things on their own, then maybe this is a perfect opportunity for you to do these sorts of things on your own. It's kind of cool. I was single at the time, and it worked really well for me because I could disappear for a really long time. But anyway, here are some ideas that have worked for me in the past. So go to a botanic garden. Most places have these within some driving distance. And if not, you can go to a local park where they've taken care of the grounds, and they have beautiful flowers and manicured trees, manicured bushes, and nice trees and things like that. I went to the Chicago Botanic Garden. I was a member, and I took classes there in botany and all that sort of stuff too. I love plants and trees, and I would go there even in the wintertime. And in Chicago, as you might know, it's quite cold in the wintertime, and this botanic garden is humongous. I forget how many acres it is now, 20, 250 maybe? It's freaking gigantic. And it would take if I walked kind of leisurely around in there, it could take me 2 hours. And I would do it in the wintertime. And sometimes, at least on I think 2 occasions, at least on 2 occasions, there was snow on the ground. And man, that was cool to be like the only one in this gigantic, gorgeous place, walking by yourself and leaving tracks that nobody was then going to traipse on, at least no one that you would see, was just wonderful. And you should try something like that, right? So get out to a park, get out to a botanic garden, something like that. If you're gifted with water nearby or mountains nearby, go out, right? Just go and hang out by the water. I lived by Lake Michigan for a while, and even when I didn't, I could drive my car there and park it and go out along the lake and just sit there and stare at the water. And go at different times, right? Go when the wind is high and the waves are crashing up on whatever part of that waterfront you've got to look at. It will really help relax you and make you free from a lot of things that might be bothering you that you don't even know are bothering you. It's very much a therapeutic thing. Um, if you have pets, wonderful. Play with your pets. Like, do something cool with your cat. Here in Japan, people actually take their cats out in like little carry, like baby things, and they walk around with their cats in carriages and things like that. I've never seen anybody do that in the U.S. Why not? Try it. If you have pets, go out for a walk with your cat or your bunny rabbit or something like that. Dogs are easy. They need to go out all the time, right? But if you don't have pets, you can do things like go to a pet store and just go and check out some of the cats and dogs and say hello to them. Yeah, you don't have to take them out because sometimes cats and the animals like that, right? And maybe it's disappointing if you leave, but you can just say hello to them. Or you can go to an aquarium. This is something I used to do. Not an aquarium, but a place that sells fish. So you can go and you walk around in there and take a look at the fish that they have, um, and just kind of be in that space for a while and relax, right? Um, the other thing you can do, one thing that I did is try and get your tactile emotions going. And so one thing I did was I'd go to a fabric store actually, and just walk around in the fabric store and look at all the different patterns and fabrics and touch things, right? And again, this kind of like is something that you never do, right? I mean, even if you walk through a clothing store, which you could also do as a nice second to this, um, you're not going to be touching everything, as people might think you're kind of weird. But if you walked into a fabric store, it's very natural behavior. People are doing that, looking at things, picking up things, and looking at fabric under the light. You'd be amazed at what you can, how you feel after doing that sort of thing. Um, Go to the library. Look at things like I looked at today that were just completely stunning, things that you would not normally pick up, right? Go to a section of the library that isn't a section you would normally visit and pull out books and sit down for a while with a little stack of books and just skim through them. You know, go through an almanac, go through an atlas, take out some maps. Maps are really, really cool to play around with, right? There are all kinds of these things in all kinds of libraries. And if you have college libraries nearby you, you find it even more fascinating things, right? Go to a museum. If you don't have museums nearby you, you probably do have little exhibits in places like the library or like the university. Or sometimes you can peek into or be allowed into places like Lions clubs or Masonic lodges. They're not as secretive as you believe. Being a Mason, I know this. And those places have exhibits too, right? High schools have exhibits. You want to kind of get out of your pattern and into things that get you to think a little bit differently, even for a very, very short period of time. And it's a real wonderful thing that you can do for yourself. So try that this month. Set aside one, hour out of your weekend maybe that you're going into, and give it a shot. And let me know how it goes for you. And check out that book too. It's a great book if you're a creative person of any sort. Um, and yeah, I think you'll be happy that you did. All right. So that's all I have for you today on June 11th. Take care of your inner creative and have fun. We will catch up with you tomorrow. Tomorrow being June 12th, which is Saturday here in Japan. Like I said, it's expected to be nice. Sunday will be a little wet here, but we're still able to get to the mic and do the podcast. So we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Have a wonderful day, night. Like, subscribe, ring the dingy bell if you want, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Cheers.